Hello, my name's Stephen from K-Scale Models, and today I'm doing a talk about 3D printed commissions. Now, this topic was suggested to me by Man. So he's got his own YouTube channel, and he does 3D printing, scale models, airbrush, gunpla, armor. Yeah, if you're into any of that, go check him out. He's done a lot of stuff in this, and he's the one that got me into 3D printing. So, why has he asked me to do this? Well, I suspect he's getting the same sort of requests I am for 3D printed commissions, and they're not always the most practical. So I'm going to use the Izumo here as a sort of reference for this. So this is one of the builds I made, the Izumo 1 to 700 scale, or 1 to 1 700, sorry. Now, this model was done, of course, for Patreon, but if it wasn't done for Patreon, if you'd requested this model specifically, how much would you be willing to pay for it? So have a think about that and pause the video if you need to. If not, well, let's go about a bit of background. My background is that I'm a qualified mechanical engineer, graduated from university. I then did a postgraduate diploma in computer-aided engineering design. So I've got a lot of qualifications. I've then spent about 6 years in industry and have got about 7-8 years of 3D printing experience. So if I was going to an employer and saying, okay, how much are you going to pay for me, they'd be looking at the region of about £30,000 a year. Now, if I'm making this model here, I'm going to be charging at those rates because I have the degree qualifications and the experience that I can ask for that. However, not everyone needs to. Some people are earlier on in their careers if they're an engineer, others are artists, so they may have different hourly rates. But let's just say everyone was working on the same sort of salary. Well, how long did this take me to make? About 2 months in total, and it was actually a little longer because I'd already started some of the work before I'd actually put this up for Patreon votes. So, yeah, this one, I made most of the exterior and most of the actual model itself over a month, and then I made the interior over the following month, like all the hangers, mobile suits. I made a fading version, a Morgan Rate diorama. Yeah, so there's a lot that went into this kit, a lot of detail. These turrets here, there's 3 different versions depending on what you're wanting. The gun turrets all open up. You can split this all off into its individual components. There's a lot. So that sort of work, when you're taking this amount of time to do huge amount of work, huge amount of detail, yeah, you're going to be charged close to about £4,000 for this. So this is not a realistic ask if someone comes to me and says, can you make this ship? For most people that are asking, this is out of their price range, and that's fair. That is not what I'm expecting you to come and ask for. This is just a bit too much. So let's go down the sort of the other end, the end that I would actually expect people to be coming to me for commissions. So this is just a simple rifle I drew up. You can actually see the video I made this on. It took me about half an hour to an hour to do in total, and I did actually go back into it after that video and tidy things up, change things around. There's still things on this I'd actually like to change, but yeah, this was more just a test to see how long it would take to do something this simple. And as I say, about half an hour. Now, if you're wanting something like this, I would probably suggest to go try it yourself. It's a simple enough build, you know what you're looking for, and there's programs out there that are beginner friendly. You can have a go at this. But if you really need to have this custom weapon for your model kit, fair enough, that's not going to be out of the realm of possibility. If it's a simple one, £15. If it's more complicated, you might be talking £50, £60 to £100. So yeah, it will cost, but that's nowhere near the £4,000 that I was quoting for the Izumo. So there is a step up from this, and that's a sort of conversion. So this is the Leo AWACS, or Recon. there was three parts to it. There was this, there was the smoke launcher, and there's a rifle that I've got somewhere in here. But yeah, it's not a huge amount. So this could have probably been knocked out within a week or two at most. So this, yeah, you're talking maybe 100, £200, 300 maybe. It depends on the build, depends on who you ask, but it's, again, this is sort of within the realm of possibility for an individual to come up to me and say, hey, I'm wanting this conversion. Now, step up from this again would be something along this line. A tank or a vehicle from Gundam. In this case, we're talking about the Dominatrix tank. So, yeah, this... Okay, I pretty much knocked this out within 3 weeks. I made it again for Patreon. It was done whilst I was working full time as an employee, so I wasn't actually doing this full time. So, yeah, that's again, it's a bit more expensive. You're probably talking somewhere between £500 to £1,000. So again, that's starting to get to the realm of, yeah, this isn't practical for an individual to pay, or at least I would assume this is more than an individual wants to pay. There might be someone out there that decides, oh yes, I must have this. I'll give you better options in a moment. The last one I'm going to show is the Freedom. So this is a ship. Generally speaking, if you're asking for a ship of some variety, these get expensive because anyone that's done ship modeling knows that there is so much involved in making the model. Not just like the 3D model. If you're actually building a kit of a ship, those are some of the most complicated models out there, and I've only touched a handful, and I've still got nightmares about photo etch. But you get the idea that this is quite a lot, and that's another thing. This is just to make a 3D model of something that could be 3D printed. But some models I've made, I've went, okay, the only way to make this bit is to then go get it photo etched. So I've had to get the thing photo etched. So if you ask for something like that, some detail work that's so specific, yes, I can do it, and I can organise getting photo etched sent out, but it's going to cost. I believe the going rate for a sheet of photo etch is about £60, and this is like an A4 size bit of photo etch. When I'm making it up for my kits, I'm making like say 20 on that bit of photo etch, so the cost evens out. But if you're doing a one-off job, then you're just getting one bit of photo etch for that. It might be an idea that at that point we would start negotiating, saying, hey, can we put something else on this? Can we put this, or this? And yeah, that might be a more practical way of doing things. So this particular kit, this one was relatively simple compared to the Izumo, but people don't generally talk about, say, the freedom level of design. They're more interested in something along the lines of the Izumo that's got so much detail, so much accessories and details and things that are changing. So yeah, this is what people keep coming to me with and get worn off by the price. So if you're going to go down the road of getting a printed commission done, the first thing you need to understand is you may end up having to pay a lot for it. The second thing is you will need to provide references. Not everyone has watched every single show, every single Gundam, every single, Battlestar Galactica or whatever. Sometimes there will be something in one of these shows that we've never seen before. We might be avid fans of it, but we've never came across this little thing that was in the background of one shot. So you'll need to give us some reference, and you'll need to give us time to research. And again, that's another thing. We do actually need to research it. So I'm just going to go through a couple of bits here. So actually, if I opened it up, I haven't actually, so let's go get it. So this is a good example. So, and where did I put it? I think I put it further down. No, I can't. I was working on it recently. There. The Gunmaster. So, couple of ones that are good for just explaining things. So I'll get rid of... I'll leave them all up actually. So, where did it go? No, it's not there. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to get this up because this is also quite a good one to sort of demonstrate. So, I'm going to use the Gunmaster first as a demonstration. So this was a conversion kit that I made for the Airmaster. Now, the first thing to know about this is the Wikipedia page for it. There is 2 pictures of it. So it appeared in one magazine and was on a trading card once. That's the extent of it. Now, this means that there's a lot of leeway for me to go, okay, well, maybe this is this way round. The problem with leeway like this is it might be a case that what you're looking for, the specifics, might be different. You might think that this gun is longer or wider or something like that, and it ends up not being what you like. So there might be a lot of back and forth on something like this where there's ambiguity in this. So, yeah. It might be a case that you need to specify certain things to the person that's doing it. So the second thing with this is actually not as simple as it originally looks. So what do we have? We've got some sort of radio thing that attaches to the shoulder. We've got an antenna. We've got a missile launcher that attaches to the arm. We've got a massive great cannon. And we've got 2 bits that fit on either side of the legs. So where is this difficult? Well, the first difficulty I actually encountered when doing this particular build was the gun. So, what happens is the suit's arm has to fold around here and grab the trigger. So, if it can't do that, then this is pretty much useless. It won't fit on the kit. So what I was finding is there's little bits that were getting in the way and I had to move them around slightly. As I said, because the ambiguity there, I could do that and it wasn't going to mean that I was being faithful to the kit because, well, that's the best picture you're going to get. So it was a case that I had a bit to play with. But every time I was remaking this, I was then printing it out and seeing if it fit the kit, and where it didn't, I would change things, I would alter it. So eventually I got this into the state where, yeah, it would work. And there's a similar story for the legs. The legs, if you've seen a Gundam's legs, there are complex curves and shapes all over the place. So I knew right off that that's going to be a right pain to make. So I was under a lot of time limits here, and I'll admit I kind of cheated. Rather than making this conform exactly to the leg, I made the outside conform to it and made a little chamfer in there so that it would all fit up against the leg, at least nice and tightly for a period, and then put a big socking peg in it. This isn't unusual. I've got a kit right in front of me, the Wingdom, that's got pegs into his legs that kind of put boosters on, and that's the sort of thing that happens. The easiest way for these to have been made would have actually been to resin cast them, basically take a mold of the leg itself, but yeah, that's not what happened. I was 3D printing it. I couldn't scan it. I don't have a scanner, and they apparently are quite a bit fiddly, so yeah. But that kind of also brings me to a point. For me to have built this, I needed an Airmaster to sacrifice to it. I couldn't just do this from pictures or little sketches that people had made for me because, well, to be honest, I don't think the people that would have been giving me that are engineers, and even an engineer that's came to me in the past for another bit of work hasn't quite understood 3D printing and has given wrong information. It wasn't his fault, as I said. He's an engineer, he's very smart, but he hadn't done 3D printing. He'd done injection molding and was giving me details that he would have used in injection molding. And after I realised this, I picked his brain about injection molding because that's something I want to get into eventually. But yeah, that's the sort of thing that has to be taken into account. We need the kit, not just the references, we also need the physical kit. And that's kind of where I'm bringing for this one. So this was another conversion done. And This back bit needed to fit onto the Doctress, because this is the Doctress X, I'm calling it. Basically, the Doctress tested out the Gundam X's cannon, so it needed a cannon fitted on it, it needed the big radiator things in the back, and it needed a new front piece. So, again, to make this all fit, I needed the kit in front of me. I couldn't just take dimensions that someone given me, I had to have the kit in front of me. So, yeah, this is so important for that. So if you ask for a conversion kit for something as random as the Dartress, even because the Dartress is a P Bandai kit, so it's not readily available. I was lucky that I found two on the second-hand market for a reasonable price, so I nabbed them up. So yeah, that is kind of where for this now. I'm just going to go and show you now a bit for the Leo head that I made earlier. Going over to the Leo itself, we've got this picture. I think we've got a manga picture. We got a trading card. And I think we've even got a little SD one. Now, if you got keen eyes, you'll notice something. None of these actually match up. That's a round radome, that's an oval radome, that might be a round radome. And I've actually seen this one done multiple times. I'm not the only one that's went and made a model of it. So, yeah, this goes back to when I'm saying what you get might be slightly different than what you're expecting unless you give specifics on things. And if you're getting something like this, it's a custom made thing, I would be expecting to be in contact with you fairly regularly. Maybe not once a day, maybe once every couple of days. Just going over and saying, hey, this is what I've done. I've moved this around to make it fit better, or I've moved it here because I think it would look better there. You might come back to me and say, actually, no, it has to be there. So, yeah, in your case, you're the customer, so you have the right to come to me and say, I want this bit there. The only time I will push back on that is if it's a case of it will not physically fit on the kit, at which point we've got an impasse because, yeah, there's an actual physical problem. We should be able to work that out and work something out that will let us do it. It might be a case that we redraw the bit that it's conflicting with or something else, but that's the sort of thing that there will be back and forth on. And yeah, if they're not, then contact them on a regular enough basis just to ask, like, hey, how's the updates going, and ask if there's like for pictures and that, because what I often do when I'm making these is I'll take snips of them like every day or every couple of days and put them up on Facebook and show people what I'm doing and say, hey, yeah, this is what's going on. So, yeah, that is the majority of these. So, I just brought Frieden's page up here because this kind of shows you this was the main, this was the main ship of that series. So, when I was asked to do this, it was a blast because everything just lined up and I had so many beautiful shots of it. They really, old artwork like this, they really went to town on it. So there is always one alternative to everything I've just said there, and that is this: Patreon or some other form of crowdfunding. Now, this is my Patreon. There's many like it. So if you go on to something like Patreon and you back someone, often they'll have different tiers of things you can do. So for instance, in mine, I'll give you a little welcome pack of a few bits and bobs. You can get all the digital downloads if you go to a certain tier, and if you go to an even higher tier, you get the power to vote on something. Now, when I do the voting system, it's not a case that you get to pick any kit. It's a case of I will pick a variety of ones that I can do. So normally what I do is I look for what do I have in stock, what am I interested in. Something might have came up recently in an article and go, oh, that's quite interesting, and therefore that's what's on the schedule. So, just a quick example of what I would do. Bear in mind, people know things differently. Um, I put up conversions, a vehicle, a ship, and something silly. In this case, it was Birdie. But you get the idea is that there is a couple of things you can vote on. You get to choose which series it is. All Patreons above 144th scale do get to pick. So, yeah, that lets people decide what they want. And I can normally tell what my audience is wanting because I'm talking to them and understand what they're going for, or what they're after. So if you are active on their community side and you say, "Oh, I really like this ship from such and such," they might go, "Well, people are interested in it. I'll add it to the vote." Or they might give you the opportunity, like let's just say there's another tier above this, a 1 to 60 tier. I played around with something like this at the beginning, but you could suggest votes. And because I'm still fairly new in the Patreon thing, I don't have many Patreons, so having an extra tier where someone can choose something and then, yeah, it was just not working at this level. Maybe in the future I would do something like that, but it's just a case of, yeah, that's a lot to take on. So, yeah, I'll just leave that. But that's an idea. So, the advantage for Patreon for a creator like myself is that this is a steady income. If I'm solely relying on me being able to eat based on me making this, someone coming to me and saying, "I want one of these," well, sure, I might be having good times. Say someone comes and says, "I want one of these, I want one of these," but I have to constantly fill my order book in that case. I explain it like, say I was a plumber or joiner or builder or something. I would have to be looking for the next couple of weeks to make sure that I was fully booked. I don't want to be a case of I don't know what work I'm going to be doing tomorrow because no one's called me, and oh, the old lady down the road is called up just in that morning because her pipe's broken, and I'm not, oh, and that's the only job I've got. I would rather have that as a sort of emergency job that, okay, I have to push back another job or spend a little extra time, that, say, working past 5 o'clock to finish the job afterwards, rather than having no work. So, yeah, rather than me relying on people coming to me to say, "I want this commission," or me searching people out saying, "Do you want something?" This means that I don't have to rush around looking for people. I've got that steady income. I know, end of the day, that I'm going to have said income this month. Granted, I might need to take on some extra work to bolster up my income, but it's not a case of I'm panicking. So yeah, that is one thing to consider is back people on Patreon that you like, and if you think they'll make the model you're looking for, then it might be a case that they are unaware of this, and after seeing whatever model you're interested in, they might go, "Oh, that's interesting," and want to make it themselves. And then they put it to the vote to the Patreons, and the Patreons go, "That's interesting." So that's one thing. But this only works if you're wanting something, say, the Freedom or a linear tank or something from the show already. Say you're wanting, where was it? This. The Daltris X, I'm calling it. This is completely out of my head. It's not a case that this was ever in anything. So if you're asking for this, you will have to ask for someone to spend the time to make it themselves because you're probably going to be the only customer for it. It's a complete custom job. No one else in the world has this thing except for you. So if that's the case, yeah, you are going to pay for it. And the reason is that this will take time. It might be a case it doesn't take a huge amount of time, but at the same time, it might be a case you ask for an Izumo. So I hope that helped you out understand from our side, the side of the creator, what happens, what we're needing to make our commissions, how much it costs, why it costs this much. Because remember, this is not an easy thing. So, yeah. And if you are dead set on having the iZoomo, fair enough. You'll just have to remember it takes time, it will cost. Okay? Right, well, thank you for listening. This kind of got a bit rambly, but you can understand why I had to do this. We've had a lot of people in the past that have asked for things that are just not practical and had to back out because they didn't understand that, yes, some of this costs a lot.